Good morning or good afternoon, depending where you are in the world. My name is Vanessa O'Brien, and I'd like to thank Andy Craddock for inviting me here to speak with you about succeeding in the face of adversity. The term disability always resonated with me for a couple of reasons. First, my grandfathers were coal miners and were always inevitably missing fingers, which they would tease us with as kids. How many fingers am I holding up, they would say. My mom also had a stump, missing a foot on one leg, yet chose to be a visiting nurse. She would go and see other people in their house, even though she had to walk to get there. I always thought she was special because she was able to park in front of everywhere in handicapped parking. As a child, disabilities didn't scare me. They were always more of a fascination. As an adult, though, I would see friends lose fingers and toes to frostbite. I would see amputees in bombings like the Boston Marathon. So but what the outcomes of these, although they were tragic, the attitudes were strong and positive that it bordered almost on heroism. And although I wouldn't admit it, because it's a classic symptom of people with disabilities, I too would hide things that were wrong with me because I didn't want it to define or limit me. Then came my father's Parkinson's disease. He couldn't walk, talk, or swallow food. He was depressed and uncooperative. I could feel myself getting angry when I would go to Florida to visit him and he would refuse rehabilitation. He kept thinking the one thing he liked to do he could never do again, which was to go fishing. That's when I realized I needed to put a sense of purpose in front of him and give him a reason to start rehabilitation. You see, people are people at just different stages in life. Learning never stops. Having a goal or a sense of purpose never stops. Studies show that if an individual has to take care of something besides themselves, even if it's a plant, a pet, a child, a parent, a friend, their happiness, their sense of satisfaction, even their longevity skyrockets. There are some things you can't and shouldn't outsource. I called this presentation 1 Billion United because when I Googled how many people live with disabilities in the world, guess which number popped up? 1 billion. Imagine that. Is that a lot or a little? Well, it's roughly 1 in 7 people in the world, or 15%. Of course, disabilities are not evenly distributed. If we look at the UK, it's about 14 million people, or almost 20% of our population. So that's 1 out of every 5, higher than the world average. US is similar to the UK. So without even defining what a disability is, I'm going to make a bold statement. No one willingly asks for a disability. No one says, please give me this when I grow up, or I want to be born this way. Which is why over the last decade, the United Nations has changed the view on disabilities. There's been a paradigm shift, and the paradigm shift no longer looks at a person with disabilities as an object to be fixed through medical treatment, but a subject with rights and choices as to how he or she wants to live and what treatments, if any, he or she wants to use. Persons with disabilities are no longer objects of charity or social welfare or even a burden on society, but active members of society with something to contribute. Even the term disability was shifted from an individual to the interaction between individuals and members. Finally, people with disabilities were granted avenues to defend their rights, complaint mechanisms, advocacy to change society so society becomes more enabling and accommodating. Now, more importantly, the UN Convention did not explicitly define disability, but called it an evolving concept. If we take something like ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which I like to joke is both a deficit and a disorder, a double whammy, if you will, that's how we easily get society to 20%. The most important thing the UN noticed is that the disability results from the interaction between persons with impairments and the attitudinal and environmental barriers that hinder full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. That's huge. That's where the disability comes in. And then they state the obvious. The person with the disabilities include those with long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments. But what if I were to add 3 things that affect almost all of us? Something that we try to overcome, something different about ourselves that we try to hide, or something that we try to compensate for. Suddenly, it's as if we all have disabilities. In climbing, I have torn 3 tendons in my right rotator cuff, so I cannot raise my right arm straight over my head. I'm always trying to hide that injury when I'm climbing. I have short, tiny hands which don't easily flip up an ascender. An ascender is a climbing tool that slides up a rope, but is supposed to pull down taut once set by flipping with your thumb. Because my thumb doesn't reach the flipping mechanism, I'm always compensating for this one way or another. These are very real things that slow me down, and no one could argue it puts me at a disadvantage if I allowed it to mentally. So adding those 3 things really broadens that scope. Now, it would be disingenuous for me to tell you that the road ahead is easy, and to give you some inspirational account how the road is paved with gold ahead of you. However, the time is now for change, and you can influence it. Whether you were born this way or became this way is irrelevant. The first thing you must do is have a winning mindset. Do not compare yourself to others. Adopt a positive attitude, own it. The disability is part of you, not you. Set your intentions. What is your goal and what do you want to achieve? Work 10 times harder than the next person. Put in the effort. Show that you are worthy of being on the team, whatever team that is, in school, in work, in extracurricular activities. If you feel yourself getting mad, angry, frustrated, let it go. Privately, vent, scream, throw things, cry, yell, get it out of your system. Have your meltdown. Then get back to real life. There are no shortcuts to the top. If you feel yourself complaining, whining, going through the poor me, shrugging your shoulders, saying this sucks, shutting down and becoming depressed, you know you're on the right track. Take a day off. Then get your act together. You knew this road was going to be tough, but you're tougher. Want to let something go? Write it down. Burn it. Bye-bye. Put it on a raft in your mind. Let it float away. Don't hold grudges. It's way too much energy. The event or the other person is not worth your time and energy. You're on the road to success. If you haven't failed, you haven't tried. This is about putting yourself out there, taking risks. Everyone who takes risks fails. It's okay to fail. You must fail, in fact, because you learn what to do better next time. Learn to hear the word no. Don't take it personally. Take it as a challenge. Signal to people how you want to be treated. I feel like disabilities has caused social confusion, much like feminism did. Can men open doors for women, or will they get yelled at and have the door slammed in their face? Men don't know what to do. Same for disabilities. People don't know what to do, so help guide them. If you want someone to open the door, ask for help. If someone offers to help you and you don't want help, thank them anyway. Ensure social exchanges are open and pleasant, including visually. There's nothing worse than a disability that is like the proverbial men staring at large breasts. Make it okay. Avoid the taboos. Remember, you cannot fail unless you give up. One game is not a match, and life is a series of games. Channel all that enthusiasm and energy into something productive like advocacy, and you will make a difference in the world. I was listening to Jose Mourinho, who you will know as a coach. I can't even put him to one team anymore. But he was talking about Darwin. And what I liked about his reference is he was referring to success not as the strongest or the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Are you going to be responsive to change? Society is changing now to embrace people with disabilities. 1 billion, 20%, 1 in 5 where you live. You can influence this change, just like Martin Luther King influenced the course of race relations by saying, I have a dream. Think of where advocacy has come with Black Lives Matter today. Black people in the US are only 12% of the population, 12%. On a global basis, 1 in 7 is 15%, and in the UK it's 20%. But people with disabilities have been shamed and embarrassed and have not yet raised their voices. I know in climbing, when I'm confronted with something so enormous, it's outside of my comfort zone, I like to break it down into digestible pieces. And my mantra is always, who are you when no one is looking? Which reminds me to be the best I can be. This is a picture of K2, which is the second tallest mountain in the world. It's only 239 meters shorter than Everest, but much harder to climb. For every 4 that climb, 1 dies. I like this picture because any sane person might walk to the base of this mountain, look up, and run in the other direction. They would be right to do so. Those red spikes at the very bottom are not people. They are simply the tallest mountains in the world, starting with the Burj Khalifa on the left. The tallest building. This is what man can do versus what nature can do. There's an enormous difference. Luckily, a mountaineer doesn't stand at the base of the mountain and look at the summit first, or we too would run in the opposite direction and fail. We view the summit like a puzzle, picking out the ridges, looking at climbing routes, researching, and breaking it down into digestible pieces. We look at possible ridges first. Okay, how can we break this down? Where would we climb? Okay, how many camps would it take to get there? I could probably get to that 1. Yeah, okay. If I can get to 1, then I can go from 1 to 2. Then I can go from 2 to 3. Go from 3 to 4, and then I can easily go from 4 to that star. And suddenly I'm not looking at this enormous puzzle, but something much, much easier to do. This to me would be a winning formula for climbing or moving the mountains before you too. But there's one more trick, and that's humor. You must keep your sense of humor. I want to show you a short video of a comedian with disabilities. And there are so many of them. So I have to tell you how hard it was to pick one because there are so many of them. So if you ever want to, Google, there are so many of these out here. And everyone will tell you that this humor comes, of course, from a dark place because this is where people struggle and why it becomes funny. But they're putting it out there because they, of course, and it's also like most humor, why things are funny is because they're putting out there the obvious. So let's take a look at this.
The headlines of your life so we know a little bit more about you before we start.
Sure. So obviously I have a disability. I think the technical term for it is being very handsome.
Where would you like to be? Do you want to see yourself as a touring act, TV, or Vegas?
When I was growing up, there was nobody that looked like me on television, so I kind of want to be the first one that's doing all that. I want people to be able to look at what I'm doing.
Good. All right, well, good luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. So I love being a stand-up comedian. This is what I always wanted to do. I have had other jobs in the past, though. I used to juggle chainsaws. It went well for a while. I had to get out, couldn't take the politics, is what it was. The other thing I wanted to be was a pro wrestler. That's the absolute truth. I had a name picked out and everything. I was going to be the Cripple Threat. That was clever. But people will ask me dumb questions all the time. I'll get this one a lot. They'll be like, hey, Ryan, is that genetic? Yes. Because you see, my mom was Irish, and my dad was a lobster. Kids are the worst, though. Oh, kids are the absolute worst, though, because kids don't have that filter. You know, if a kid says you're ugly, all right, deal with it. Buy a hat. I don't know what to tell you. I had this 8-year-old girl recently come up to me, and if you're ever feeling pretty good about yourself, let an 8-year-old girl verbally kick you in the nuts. That'll fix that for you. But this little girl, after she saw me, and after she screamed, it was a big scream, which, side note, has led me to a new game that I play. Now when I'm out in public and I see a child staring at my arms, I like to pretend that I'm discovering them for the first time, too. They're like, what are you? Oh my God! What happened? Tell us about it! And that's why I'm not allowed at Toys R Us anymore, so. Thank you. Thank you. I'm Ryan Nemo, you guys. Thank you so much.
I think you are amazing. I'm just curious, why have you not had the break you're looking for yet?
I think part of it is having a disability like this. It's really hard to kind of break through without people thinking you're a novelty act. I've had the booker tell me, well, I don't think this is what we like. This isn't what the people want here. So.
He's the one with the disability, not you, trust me. That's why you're here.
Thank you. You are brilliant. You are real, you are authentic, you are funny, you are a star. There is not a room that you should not be allowed to play in, and I believe that you should be in the finals here. I love you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're freaking funny, and I just want more. I want to know your next tour dates. I'm going to be your roadie. You're brilliant.
Thank you.
I mean, literally everything about you just screams, I am awesome, I am funny, I am the real deal.
Hit him with a dab.
Howie, yes or no? Yes!
2 yeses.
Yeah, I got 3 yeses.
I actually know how many people are in this theatre, so you have 4,104 yeses.
That was great and very, very hard to pick between all these amazing comics that were out there. But humor is so important. I want to come back so you can see me. Can you see me? You can't see me yet.
Yes, I can see you, Vanessa. That's
perfect.
fine.
Great. So, really, the last slide was really just open for questions, so I don't have to show that one, but lots of themes coming out here. But the most important thing is, the road ahead is hard, but it's not impossible. You can make a difference, and the time is now.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's such an amazing presentation, and I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head, really, because it's about that positivity and that mindset, as you said. And yes, there is, over 1 billion people now with disabilities all across the world, but that shouldn't stop what you want to be and who you want to be. And I think it's relevant in the times now how things are changing over the world. So thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it, and hopefully that if with your consent, we can share that and share that to our specialist colleges as well, because I think it's really relevant to the what's going on in the world now. There is that stigma, there is that kind of lack of awareness in the community, and that kind of people are frightened because of the lack of education, or just because they're reluctant to open themselves up to disability or issues that really don't concern them. But as you say, it's that we're in the world now that's changing, and we need to be together, and it's through positive actions which we inspire positive outcomes. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, in doing the presentation, I learned a lot. I learned that this is no longer, even why I started with the definitional change from the UN, this is no longer what it was. The whole definition has changed, and so many people now have, with the broadened definition, disability affects so many people that this is not what it was in the past.
Absolutely.
So I think really the time is now to affect change. What I would say is, we need some really good vocal spokespeople for this to, move that change a little bit faster.
Mhm.
And I think probably things that happen to us, like COVID and adopting Zoom and some of these things that have happened to our life, will make it easier so that we can, adopt technology. So, we can communicate in easier ways, and we don't have to necessarily.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a kind of catch-22, because it works both ways as well. Because even people with disabilities, because they believe themselves that with their disability they can't do nothing, it's caught in that kind of trap that thinks, well, I've got a disability, I can't do it. But by looking at people who've inspired so many people throughout the Paralympics and the world now, that's got to be a misconception. You can achieve anything that you want to put your mind to, and in different ways of using different devices or communication or different technology. So you're right, the time is now, and we need to do something about it, I think. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting, even those comedians who were on that last sort of the best of with Simon Cowell. There was one who couldn't speak at all, and he spoke through a machine.
That's right.
But the point is, he's hilarious because he's sharp, and the things he's saying to the audience are very clever. So whatever it is, it's more what you want to do, and not having the limitations set upon you. I think people have to think about what they want to do and go in that direction, and that's where it starts, to follow a dream.
Absolutely. Vanessa O'Brien, it's been a pleasure to watch your presentation. It's been a pleasure to speak to you, and I hope we can continue to converse across the Atlantic, etc., and build on this idea of bringing people together. So thank you so much, and you take care. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.